Unity, oneness of minds, feelings as among a number of persons, harmony, concord, and agreements. Hello, I'm Ernest Lowery. Welcome to the podcast Unity, a place where you can come together and understand what's happening in your community. What does the community want? It wants great schools, it wants to be self-sustaining, and it wants to take crime out the neighborhoods. Come join us at Podcast Unity. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Unity Podcast. I'm your host, Ernest Lowery, and I'm here talking with my special guest, David Barr, and we're having such a great conversation. We last talked about some things that was happening in the film Hidden Figures, and we want to kind of segue on that just a little bit. So what were the thoughts you had about that, David?
Well, I mean, it's great. I'm so glad you asked. You know, our film, our documentary, The Aberdeen Gardens 158, built by us for us, is based on the neighborhood that the Hidden Figures ladies lived in.
Is that right?
Ironically enough, you know, Katherine Johnson and Dorothy Vaughns and Mary Jackson, all of them lived in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And because it was such a tight neighborhood, it's amazing how many lives they touched. I can tell you specifically, you know, my mother went to West Virginia State. The only reason she went there is because Mrs. Johnson went there.
Is that right?
And she gave her a recommendation to go to West Virginia because
right.
She said Mrs. Johnson went there, so I think I should go.
Oh, okay.
One of the founders of the William Tucker 1624 Society, mm-hmm. He was a paper boy for Dorothy Vaughan, who was portrayed in the movie by Octavia Spencer. Mm-hmm. And Katherine Johnson, of course, is portrayed by Taraji Henson. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a ton of connections. Mm-hmm. And Vincent was like, hey man, I didn't even know that she was part of the NASA thing until I saw the credits. Mm-hmm. And she's like, hey, that's my neighbor. But that's how tight we were. It didn't really matter what you did.
Right. The
fellowship and the connection with what everybody was doing. You were my neighbor. Mm-hmm. Okay, unless you were a botanist, phlebotomist, or whatever the heck it is, you were my neighbor.
Right.
I just wish we could get back to that. That's the Hidden Figure stuff I wish we could get back to. That's a beautiful thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's great, man.
Well, we have a story to tell, don't we?
Yeah, I'm telling you, and we're going to tell it.
And the thing about it is that for us, talk about black folks in general, is that we've always had a tight-knit community. And when we left alone to our own devices, we've always excelled.
Yeah.
And everything that we've done.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, we're going to kind of cross the road a little bit, go back up to talk about what you're doing for the garden, the Aberdeen Garden, and just dive in there just a little bit more and how that's panning out. And you talk about the Smithsonian and. Well,
one of the beautiful things about what we're talking about right now is Aberdeen Gardens is exactly what it is. I mean, it's what the title says. It's built by us for us. Mm-hmm. It started by a black man, Arthur Howe, you know. Mm-hmm. He had this concept, you know, the president of Hampton Institute at that time. And they got a grant from the FDR administration. And all of a sudden they get the architect, Hilliard Robertson, who creates this thing, architect out of Howard, and everything else, every nail in that place was built and constructed by black engineers. And that's really remained that for like the better part of a century now. That's a beautiful thing. There are not a lot of places around the country, around the world that can say that. And we're really proud of that.
So if I can say this here, what was the turnaround on the notoriety of that specific place? Because certainly a lot of people didn't hear about it, and I didn't know much about it myself.
Yeah. We got people in the neighborhood that didn't even know about it. I mean, to be honest, because you get to a point where you're in a situation where you're like, wait a minute, hold it. Why are all these people coming through the neighborhood? And why? Because what happens is through the generations, unfortunately, through the generations, home ownership changes, the properties change, and then people lose connection. Some of the kids get a little older, they're living in different places, they move different places. Those incredible people that built Aberdeen Gardens, historic Aberdeen Gardens, and everything around it, Granger Courts and Jones Road and East Aberdeen, they've moved on and done other things, and maybe they're not moving back, and they're not staying back. They're not like staying where they, where everybody else did, and so they kind of lose interest in the properties. So there's less connection, and we talk about that in the film. We talk about that a lot in the film, actually. About one of the biggest obstacles we have right now is connection, the reconnection. You're not necessarily still live in the neighborhood, but if you still have a connection to the neighborhood, that's really important, and that's home ownership. I mean, in the days of segregation, especially in segregation, there weren't a lot of places we could live. There weren't a lot of places that we were accepted. Sometimes even by some of our own people, because they wanted to feel like they wanted to fit in, so they didn't want to rock the boat. But now, with a situation like this with Aberdeen Gardens, we're able to talk about stuff that we have total control over. We have the sale of that. And this is one of the first films that we've been able to do it. And me as a third generation Aberdeener, I want to make sure I'm saying that. You know, Milo family, 1937 we moved in. I'm a third generation, proud. But this is one of the few times we've been able to say it from our mouths. A film made by one of our own that's not filtered and everything. The city of Hampton's been terrific, just so you know. The city of Hampton's been terrific.
All right, so then, in the interest of the Aberdeen Garden project, who was the bookkeeper or the gatekeeper or the historian who kind of kept this together, or just something that y'all pieced together from the people that's left or people that came back, and how did that work? How did that filter out?
Well, I want to give that to my good buddy and my mentor in a way.
All that, huh?
But definitely my school mom, Margaret Wilson. Margaret Jones Wilson, and as fate would have it, Margaret Jones Wilson, she's the president of the Historical Foundation of Aberdeen Gardens. She also happens to be the first granddaughter born in Aberdeen Gardens. And her mother was an archivist. And she kept that big old book like we used to have in the old days in the neighborhoods. Black folks used to have one person on the block.
Like the Bible.
It was a Bible. And now she's become the Bible person. And she's been incredible. She's the one that helped us facilitate that Smithsonian grant. And she's been incredible, very supportive and everything. But now here we are. And I'm just glad that she's got an opportunity to have her parents, her grandparents, and all her neighbors with everybody else that's in this film. The Vans, the Milos, I mean, my God, the Burrows, all these cats honored in this way. But with as happy as I am, there's also a bittersweetness. We lost 5 people trying to get this movie done. And as time went on, because we ran out of time, they're not going to be able to see this film. But we were lucky to get their really last will and testament. We got the last words up there, talking about what they felt for the future and everything, and it's just so poignant. And it was done 2.5 years ago. So now we're just getting to this point, and what they said was so prescient. It was so right dead on, man. And the hardest part of this film was writing the in-memory section. And the in-memory section was, I had to change it like every month. And I had to change it 5 times. I'm just so pleased, at least I hope, God willing, I wanted to change that again. But the beauty of their sentiments are here in this film, so I'm just happy about that.
Now I know one of the things we haven't discussed about the Aberdeen Garden project. From my understanding, it's $50. It's going to be on the.
It's a suggested donation. They want to make sure I said that, okay? Because they really, physically, whatever the technical thing is, they couldn't charge or whatever thing is. But it's a suggested donation. It'll be Friday night, September 16th. Is the VIP thing. There is this big old hoodie-doo. You know, people like me normally wouldn't be able to get in there, but because I just happen to have something to do with the film, okay, wrote it and produced it, they're gonna let me in. The next day, and that starts at 6 o'clock on September 16th at the American Theater. You can go online and look at all of that, but on the next day it'll be again at the American Theater at 2 o'clock. It's a matinee. And we'll do the same thing, but it's more of a public screening. So the suggested donation is $50. I know it's a lot of money, especially now, but I'm just saying that's what it is, Friday. And on Saturday, it's $20, okay? So, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm just so pleased to be able to promote that, because it is a big deal. We've never had anything like this in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Never had anything like this for any black neighborhood. Any black neighborhood in this state.
Except for the Tucker burial grounds.
No.
No?
No.
Wow.
No.
No.
Should have. Not Jackson Ward.
Right.
No.
Right. Okay.
Right.
That's surprising.
I know.
Yeah.
I was surprised too. A feature film sponsored by a Smithsonian entity, National Park Service, by a black neighborhood in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's the first one. First one. And we're gonna make sure we're gonna make it a big one, though. Okay.
Do it right.
Yeah, we gonna do it right.
Yes, sir.
And we're so proud, man.
Right.
You know, I mean, we're very proud, and I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, it's on the National Historic Register.
That's a great thing.
It's on the State Historic Register.
Right.
Okay. It's been Neighborhood of the Year twice. Now I'm talking about competing against everybody.
This state.
Everybody. Okay.
The country.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Great.
This ain't no jive, man.
Yeah.
But I'm just so pleased that we can do that. While some of the folks who helped make that happen are still here. Now again, I want to compliment the Historical Foundation of Aberdeen Gardens. They've been incredible with their promotion. The Hampton Visitors Convention Bureau, they've been incredible. But it's really the people of Aberdeen. They really open up. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic shooting it.
Right.
And they open their doors to us. I mean, we had a couple of sisters, one of whom I just told you who passed. She got out of the hospital that morning for a 10 o'clock shoot. She got out of the hospital that morning. Made sure I picked her up.
Right.
But she had some things to say. We had another sister who knew she was passing. We didn't know that. She made sure that she opened her doors because she wanted to say some things about how much she loved the neighborhood. And I can't make that up. I'm lucky. I'm a decent writer. I can't make that up. This is who they are.
Yeah.
This is what they grew up, and that's what they cared about.
And Brother David, that's very fascinating because I was sitting up here thinking that back in the day, my parents migrated from Mississippi to Chicago, where I grew up, right? Okay. But in the interim, I asked them about the past, and they don't want to talk about it. Right. So we got those who won't talk about it at all, and then when we go back to old school, to our old traditions, when we had the orators and the tribes that kept records over time, and younger people had to come in and fill in and say, okay, you up next, you do this here, and you keep the books. Just like you said about this young lady, they had the Bible and got everything written down. Thank God.
Thank God they
for some of those who step up to the plate and able to keep things pieced together so that we can tell things accurately.
That's right.
Because our biggest nemesis is somebody else telling our story.
That's exactly right. And right now, in this Commonwealth, of all of the places in America, the Commonwealth of Virginia, that's so steeped in tradition and talking about history. I mean, the biggest tourism, the biggest commerce thing that's going on in this state is tourism. Is the history. That's what it is. Well, what bigger history is it to talk about than all the Civil War and the Revolutionary War? But there's also our history. And if we let that continue to get glossed over, that will never be told. So all of this CRT and all of this gaslighting stuff, these people decided no. I'm in my 80s, I'm in my 70s, I'm in my wherevers. I'm going to talk about what my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents are doing without fear of trepidation. That's how courageous that these people at Aberdeen Gardens were. And that's how they are. And guess what? That's what we're doing.
Right. Well, I know for myself in my travels, and I've been out abroad myself, and what I understand for myself about this country, that the United States is a business country, and its language is business, right? And and there's nothing romantic about it in the most part, in my view. But there are several phrases that always bother me, and one is go back to your country, and two is that I don't see color. I mean those things, it bothers me a lot. I understand why people say that and they have good intentions, but sometimes people don't realize how privileged they are.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
we got an enclave, a really small community in this incredible moment in time that's never been created with the people of Aberdeen Gardens, historic Aberdeen Gardens, that was created and self-sustaining. And they did their thing and sustained their thing in this one little bubble amidst the heat of Jim Crow and the cradle of the Confederacy. All those years, they did that. But we got a lot of white folks on our boards, both boards. You know why? Because we never felt excluded. We never felt necessarily included. We just felt inclusive. And that's a big deal. Not excluded, not included, but inclusive of everybody. Because that's the way the neighborhood was built and continues to sustain itself. It's inclusive of everybody, man.
Right.
Everybody. And that means that, hey, look, if you're with us, we're with you, but not necessarily, I don't care what kind of color t-shirt you got on or whatever. Nobody cares. These are the streets I walked, I played with. I jumped over the fences and stole apples off the trees and picked berries off the trees and whatever. People running me out of the yards. I mean, this is my family. These are my people. But I never, ever heard the word Republican or Democrat or right or left or gay or straight or I never heard any of that. Because they didn't care. Because we knew we needed everybody on this battlefield. There was no soldier we could leave untethered on this battlefield. And that's the way it should be.
Right.
And that's the way our boards are. And it's just it's just so beautiful to have and that's the way our city council has approached this particular project. That's the way that the management and all of the Visitors Bureau and everybody has approached it. We got biracial, interracial, everything on this thing. They have understood that this is one of those rare moments in a community time when everybody's together. They're together in the same line.
Right.
And we should be supporting that, and that's what they're doing.
Okay, David, in closing, I know.
We gotta leave already?
Well, I don't want to leave. Every good thing comes to the end, right?
I know,
but not necessarily.
Okay,
but I'll say this. I just want to ask you this final question, and you actually kind of answered already. But as a recap, what gives Aberdeen Gardens life?
The community and the fellowship. You're not going to run into very many places in the world where there's an intergenerational camaraderie. Somewhere down along the line between the generations, this person's not going to like this person, and then that chain breaks, that link breaks. Or I never liked your brother, your sister, or whatever, so I'm not going to ever talk to you again, and then that chain breaks. That doesn't happen in Aberdeen Gardens. Believe me, they disagree about everything, believe me. But the one thing that they do agree on is that they're all Aberdeen. I'm quoting one of the lines from one of the people in our film, Troy Smith. Troy Smith Jr., gotta love him, his dad, an incredible man, entrepreneur, incredible. But the one thing that they always say is, we have a lot of disagreements. We're gonna come together. When I got fortunate enough, my mom pressured me into doing my bar mitzvah speech at one of our annual breakfasts, and she made sure that I was coming there to do it. The theme of it was America should come to Aberdeen. It wasn't Aberdeen should go to America, because I'm all in Chicago and doing all of this stuff, and it really didn't even amount to a hill of cheese grits. When you come back into this neighborhood and you see how the people, all their divergencies and all that stuff, they're still together, man. It's like, hey, America should come here. This is the way it works. This is the way it works. Black folks, white folks, young, old, intergenerational, rap, jazz, whatever. This is the way it works, because that's the only way we're going to sustain ourselves.
Right.
And now, of all of the times in the world, we need to have that kind of philosophy. That's what it is. Not, Aberdeen need to go to America.
Right.
America need to come to Aberdeen. That's what sustains it. And that's what's going to keep on sustaining it for another 90 years.
On that note, David,
I'm so honored.
Bar,
Thank you,
you so
bro.
very much. I
appreciate
really
you, man.
appreciate
Look at all
it.
good. It's I'm rolling my Aberdeen.
Let's stop right there.
I'm rolling my Aberdeen Rattlers thing, but you're looking all good.
You're doing
bro.
great, man.
I appreciate you, man.
I want to thank you for being on the podcast, sharing your views. I'm particularly interested in seeing the reviews about the Aberdeen Garden Project.
Thank you.
And I'm so thankful and grateful that you took the time out to come over here and be with us and give us a little tour of what's to come.
That's
so
an honor, man.
Thanks again, appreciate it. We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
But before we close, just give me that drop me that email address one more time. You got that?
It's called the Aberdeen Gardens 158, built by us for us. It'll be September 16th. It's a VIP reception. September 17th will be September 16th starts at 6 o'clock at American Theater. And then September 17th at 2 o'clock, same place, American Theater, be $20, $50 for the VIP reception. But what you can do is make sure that I'm gonna send you a flyer as well. But you can, if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me on my email.
Okay.
And it'll be dukeb71863@yahoo.com, and then I will facilitate them to the people.
Sure.
It'll be dukeb71863@yahoo.com. But thank you so much for this
Thank you again, sir.
opportunity.
Thank you.
I'm honored. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for laboring with us. There's this labor of love. As I talked to my good friend, David Barr, all the way from Hampton to come visit us today and talk about the Aberdeen Garden Project. So I'm Ernest Lowery with Podcast Unity. Again, thank you for joining us. We really, really, really appreciate it. Peace out.